Hello and welcome to our special Telecom Innovation Series. I'm Menon and the focus of discussion today is on the innovation in the telecom sector and how that can be encouraged. Joining me today are the Vodafone India CEO, Marten Pieters. We have VP Chandan, Director of the Aegis School of Business and Telecommunication. He's also consultant with the World Bank. And we have Neeraj, the founder of Hungama. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. The focus of our conversation is going to be innovation and how you can actually encourage innovation. In a sense, technology has leapfrogged Marten into a new realm, and innovation becomes the key because there's so much riding around it and the potential is so huge. Till now, innovation has been determined by the affordability, the cost factor, etc. How is innovation going to change in this new environment?
I think actually innovation on the cost side is very important in India because we know that affordability of services is one of the big issues, and we know also that people are looking for value if they buy something. So I think, for example, in the telecoms industry in India, we have developed a very unique model with a lot of outsourcing, a lot of sharing, models that had not been explored to that extent in other parts of the world, which has given us the opportunity to deliver the service at probably about 10% of what it would cost in any other country except for China in the world. So I think, yes, innovation is happening on various levels. You know, it's happening on the technology level. We saw 3G coming, which is clearly the next level of innovation in the telecoms, in the GSM telecom side. But you will also see innovation on the equipment provider side. We see the Apples and the HTCs and all of them coming with the most beautiful smartphones. So innovation is not something that is only happening in one place. We need it all, and I think it will drive the market from all these sides.
But innovation till now was seen more in the physical aspect. Now it's in the content aspect. It's now in the applications aspect. And, you know, to be fair, the smartphones and the app side, they have actually pioneered this. So in telecom, what is the kind of framework that you're seeing evolve?
Well, what we see clearly is that an industry which was mainly driven by voice and SMS and a bit of value-added services, but in terms of revenue, that was probably not more than 5, 6, 7% of our revenues at best. That is going to change because the whole content which is coming via 3G and other broadband services will drive the revenues, and we expect that probably 5, 6, 7 years from now, that might be up to 30-35% of our revenues.
You know, a lot of what we are seeing in India, you know, is a confluence of a lot of forces. You have a telecom revolution that made connectivity possible. Now you have a lot of people trying to piggyback on that telecom infiltration to actually get banking to the poor, financial inclusion, health services, etc. In that context, what needs to be done to facilitate innovation and ensure that that you know Indian-made solutions are put forward?
Very right. To start with, let me tell you, Indians are good at innovation, but how is it overall we have not showcased our innovative power techniques here? Our engineers go abroad, settle in USA, they bring out products. Why Facebook or a similar thing couldn't come in India? Why, how is it that our engineers go there and excel? This is because the environments are not right. There is not adequate encouragement. The regulations are probably not helping. The government policies are such. So, in all, somehow the trigger isn't coming. The people are there, innovators are there, but nothing exciting is happening this far. So we have to think what's lacking here, what's not lacking elsewhere. For example, China. They are years ahead of us. Look at the companies like Huawei, ZTE. They have done so well, not only in products, but in applications. So we must think, put our thinking cap together and see what's missing here.
Yeah. Sure. Neeraj, you're one of the entrepreneurs who ventured into a new area very fast. What is your own take on this? Do you think the the whole universe is changing around India, and it's encouraging people to innovate right now, people like you to come and adapt and look at new technologies?
See, when I see my 6-year-old daughter playing with her mother's iPad like it was a slate, I think innovation is already happening. And it will continue to happen, because we happen to be an industry which till now has been in communication and is now moving into data. And when you look at the internet is going to transform everything that we do, the way we do it, how we communicate, etc. Whereas in the Indian market, if you see in the value-added services the last 5-6 years, we have predominantly been in a voice and text environment. And there has been some tremendous amount of innovation that has actually happened out of Indian markets itself. Now we move into the data domain, where we will move from 2G to potentially 3G, which is already live, and even 4G services by the end of this year. The second thing is, unlike, even a couple of years back, you now have this added advantage of connected devices. Even a company like ours, we're working with 67 different device manufacturers across 6 segments. It's not just mobile phones or tablets or PCs. You're working with smart televisions, white goods, automobiles as areas. All of these devices, are getting connected, and there is bound to be a component of innovation in that. And that opens up an entire market for different types of services which consumers can opt for. We may call them content, we may call them services, they could be enabling healthcare, education, whatever. It's just the beginning, of what will happen. And as we move from this, 70, 80 million consumer base to about 500 million consumers in the next 3-4 years, who have this ubiquitous access available to them, you're bound to see a lot of innovation coming across from this market.
How much of the innovation has to be, based on the uniqueness of India? In that sense, are we going to be different when you actually have a solution for education, for instance? Does it have to be a very India-specific innovation? And in that sense, are we kind of, in an island of our own?
Decidedly. No, for example, in India, at every stage, there's an acute shortage of teachers and professors. Even in IIT, there's a shortage of professors. Leaving aside IITs, come down to a lower, higher secondary school, right even up to primary school, there's a shortage of teachers and there's a vast demand. Now, if we have a innovative product that with the limited supply available, we are able to meet the requirement of large population, we have done it. So, an innovative method is now required wherein with the limited supply available, both in terms of the lessons or in terms of professors and lecturers, we can cater for the need of the entire population in India.
I think what Professor spoke about was there is a market and aspiration in Middle India to do well, and that is getting fulfilled because the infrastructure is being enabled. Now, when you start looking at data, and the projections on data are that by end of 2013, globally, there will be 90% of all internet traffic which will be video. Now, if you just take the form factor video, then it's up to your imagination what you want to build in that. Is video entertainment, is video education, is video, just utility pertaining to reporting things that are happening, and is therefore enhancing e-governance in a certain manner. So I think it's about see, we never had these committed investments in infrastructure. Sure. The first phase was very closed, voice, text, those are closed environments. And the good part in India is that it's the same telecom companies who are investing into data. Unlike in the West, where you also have cable and therefore there's a little bit of, so there will be hopefully a lot more concentrated growth opportunity.
As India's economy grows rapidly, do we have the infrastructure to back it up? How do we build up our roads, our ports, our cities to take on the challenge? Join us on Building India, a series that looks at the biggest infrastructure projects that could be game changers for India as we go ahead.
Menon Group and Bloomberg UTV present Building India at these terms.
Presented by Binani Cement for generations to come. In association with United India Insurance.
अंधकार हमारे शब्दकोश में नहीं है. गौर से देखो, हर पन्ने पे जुनून लिखा है. इस विशाल पावर प्रोजेक्ट के निर्माण के लिए हमें मिले 4 वर्ष. फिर हमने पलट कर नहीं देखा और हमारी जिद ने पूरा कर दिया ये सपना लक्ष्य से 6 महीने पहले. जयप्रकाश पावर वेंचर्स लिमिटेड, देश को जगमगाने का जुनून.
Can a bank really stand for something? Can it balance its ambition with its conscience? As not everything in life that counts can be counted. In the many places we call home, our purpose remains the same. To be here for people, here for progress, here for the long run, here for good.
Loud.
Why'd you marry it? I'm not scared of you.
Scandalous.
You call it, you sit there and you sleep with him.
Brash. Nasty.
Oh, God dang! Let me out!
Uncontrollable and uncensored.
What's going on?
Meet the man who makes your television too hot to handle. The Jerry Springer Show. Monday to Thursday, 11 p.m. Only on Spark.
At HTC, we're always looking to you for inspiration. That's why we created the HTC Desire S, so you can glide effortlessly through life.
Brought to you by the Glenlivet Book.
You will see more and more companies hit the market for raising equity capital.
That is where the secret of India's success. How are you feeling about the market?
Yeah, sometimes it is good, sometimes bad. For them, 6 months.
The Corona ka share short term, Baki share long term. The stock doing extremely well on the results front.
I suggest you hold on. I'm long term, so I don't mind to keep it for 1 year also.
Very nice advice, sir.
Stay with the story. I think there's a lot of growth left.
In association with Religare Broking, India's leading broking network. And Voltas, sensible cooling from Voltas.
With scale and growth, Marten, does it also become imperative to have innovation so that you can actually reach out to more people? And, you know, I want to understand from you the concept of M-Pesa, for example. This is a great concept that was pioneered in Kenya. It's the most cited concept of how innovation can drive a very utilitarian service out there and create a viral of sorts. What are lessons from there?
Well, I think what we learn from that is that if a service is relevant, and clearly mobile payments is very relevant for people who have no access to bank accounts, who live in rural areas where there are no bank franchises and so on, but also even people that want to get rid of cash, because cash in certain areas is actually dangerous because you might be robbed, you might lose it. And what we learn is that the telecom device has become such a personal device that people actually use it as their wallet. And once you get the service right, we see in Kenya that a big part of the GDP is now being transferred via the mobile. I think we in India have a huge opportunity there. If you see all the payments that the government does to certain special interest groups, if you see, you know, the costs that are involved with remittances, international but also national remittances, there's so many workers, you know, who move from place to place and sometimes are from home from 6 months to 12 months, and they do their remittances. If they could use the mobile for that, it would be a lot more safe and a lot faster and a lot cheaper, actually.
In India, can something like that be replicated? The regulatory framework notwithstanding, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something replicated in that kind of scale, in that kind of viral fashion, especially now when there's so much of talk of a UID smart card coming in? I mean, could you ride another wave into that?
Yeah, I'm convinced that that is the next wave that is coming. We are pushing very hard, and I think other operators are doing the same. We had some hurdles in the regulatory atmosphere, but actually they are becoming less and less. It's not completely perfect yet, but I think we are getting there, so I'm pretty optimistic about that.
How close are we to our own version of M-Pesa? I mean, is it going to be mobile, schools and colleges where you can actually get education through your phone? Is it going to be healthcare services? And what's the level of innovation that you're seeing in those areas, which are very, very critical?
There's enough opportunity. You talked about this example. There's another example in Bangladesh. We talked about Grameen Phone and Grameen Bank. Here now, the next stage would be education through mobile services. There is existing system available where over the television or over the radio, a lecturer can give lecture and it is received in remote areas. But then there is no interaction, there is no two-way communication. But once the mobile services reach up to all the levels, and there is a stage when I'm sure in a couple of years the 3G would go, then a student sitting in a remote corner can ask questions from the lecturer, and the lecturer can promptly answer that question then and there. So that sort of two-way communication is possible, and in Aegis School we are developing similar models so that we will develop lectures. It can be delivered either on a real-time basis or it can be store and forward sort of questions, lessons, and then they are being developed. It can be further developed in association with some of the teaching institutions, could be IITs, IIMs, management schools, and then it would be delivered to the remote areas.
Marten, let me rephrase that question. Very often concepts like this are done in pockets, but they never reach critical scale. Are you saying that a lot of the innovation that is already being done can also ride on this to get the mass scale and hence become far bigger than what it is? Because, distance education has been there, distance healthcare has been there. Can innovation on the telecom side actually take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think it is the whole ecosystem. It's not just the innovation in itself, because if you don't have, for example, a broadband connection, then you might have the opportunity, but there are too few people to make it work. You need scale to make it work. Now, we have reached scale in terms of broadband by the introduction of 3G in this country. The other form of scale you will need is the device. If the device is costing too much money, if the laptop is $1,000, if the smartphone is $500, that is too expensive. It's never going to be a mass market tool. So we need devices and they are being built while we speak, that are a lot cheaper. So it becomes a mass market device. It's always, push and pull in a way. The technology on the one hand is pulling it, but on the other hand, if you don't have the push from the service providers, the content providers, and there's not enough demand out there, then it's not going to happen. It's all about timing. It needs to get right at the same time.
Right. Neeraj, what is funny is that, a lot of this actually needs a trigger point. One innovative idea can become a viral, can become, the game changer, so to say. But from a business side, a lot of advertisers are really latching on to very innovative ways of reaching out to customers, and you are facilitating that. So is innovation also happening in that level?
When you will look at the telecom economy 2 to 3 years from now as also a potential media economy, there is bound to be advertising-driven growth which will fuel it into getting into deeper markets, because it will not necessarily only be restricted to transaction between consumers wanting to do this, but you'll start having clusters of brands looking at, what's the value add that they are giving. And that's where this whole connotation of content is the new storefront is something that they are beginning to adapt into. So yes, it'll happen. At this stage, it is happening to some extent in the app economy, where brands are, naturally developing apps and taking that forward. But I think that's not so much driven by their desire to get to that. It's also about this whole shift of away from the browser into the app economy, which is real. I mean, because in 18 months or so, there are 10 billion apps that have already been consumed globally. And, if the trend continues, they're expecting by 2012 there'll be 50 billion of those that will get consumed. So Still early days for brands to participate, but 2 to 3 years out, they could certainly be contributors.
While surrendering the policy, I came to know that I have to pay 70% annual charges. I had a problem with the credit card authority.
They have refused my claim, saying that intimation of my claim is delayed. I had never seen this monies growing. On efforts of Fight Back, I received my claim amount. Finally, I got my surrender value. Thank you, Fight Back.
Join Fight Back and fight for your rights.
Register your grievance on 409-8744.
Conversations about everything.
Boyfriend looks like Bond.
The best conversationalist ever.
You're 71, have 5-year-old twins, and on tour still.
Be part of it at 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. If it's
I'll
Oprah,
make $1 million now that I'm on Oprah.
it's only on Love.
I don't need no cash. I don't need no worries. I just want to share.
Get unlimited internet for a day at 96 rupees and change your world. Just dongle with MTS M-Blaze.
Life is filled with learning. We learn how to walk. We learn how to talk. We learn how to drive. The Nissan Student Brand Manager Program 2011. Powered by Bloomberg UTV. Open a world of opportunities to learn the hidden manager in you and make you the next Nissan Student Brand Manager.
Brought to you by Nissan, Knowledge Partner, Frost & Sullivan, Cafe Partner, Mocha, Multiplex Partner, Big Cinemas, a Bloomberg UTV Pulse initiative. Brought to you by the Glenlivet Book.
The sudden jump in prices has put a tight squeeze on consumer wallets. Increasing costs have started to threaten the very existence of small businesses. And ever-growing interest rates are impacting corporate profitability and growth. Bloomberg UTV brings you ground reports across the nation on the impact of inflation and high costs and helps you in living with high rates.
You spoke in the beginning of our conversation about the fact that we are not creating an environment that encourages innovation.
Yes.
The counterpoint of this discussion could be the market has created that environment which is forcing innovation and encouraging innovation because the market has a dynamism of its own. What needs to be done to take this to the next level, do you think?
First, main thing I would say, it all depends on the content provider and the content creator. We have pockets of excellence where contents can be generated. And then there has to be a middleman who takes these contents, goes to the service provider. And then service provider delivers it finally to the consumer or the customer. Now, this chain somehow is not well established. Somewhere there are missing links. With the result, we have pockets where contents are being generated. We have content providers, but then they don't have access to that. And then somewhere from content providers to the cellular providers and then to the consumers. The whole chain somehow is not getting linked properly. With the result, the end user, the consumer, is not getting the benefit.
Manufacturing companies call it frugal innovation, which Indian companies are supposed to be mastering every day, Marten, because it says that because of the competition, because of the cost, inelasticity out there, what happens is that you actually innovate and bring costs down, and hence a lot of innovation comes because of cost cutting. In your case, you've added a facet of the utility aspect of it. So is that going to determine innovation going forward? The fact that you need to reach out and perhaps make life easier for people?
Yeah, I think a lot of the innovation on the organizational side and the technological side in India, at least in our sector, has been driven indeed by necessity, by the fact that tariffs became very low. We produce a service here at about 10% of the cost as we produce in most countries in the world. But at the same time, what I see is that innovation is costing money. So you need to have some margins to develop the next level and the next generation. So you cannot always say that if it's low enough, there will be enough innovation. I think there comes a point where there's no money to innovate anymore. So that's a danger that we also have in India. And I think here we come to points like IPR. If someone develops something, but there's not a good enough protection for a new idea, then it might look very nice because it can be picked up very quickly and probably for free. Let me give you an example. When we started 3G services, we gave it more or less for free in the first month just to test it. We immediately saw that some people started businesses of downloading movies from the internet, burning DVDs and selling them in the street.
Oh my God.
Of course, that was not something that we had anticipated, and it was not exactly the usage that we would stimulate. But Indians are pretty smart in using technology to make money.
Yeah. IPR is a big issue that you've also raised. I mean, that's something that you strongly believe needs to be enforced. How is that hurting innovation now, Neeraj?
Well, it will hurt. It's just the beginning right now if IPR is not protected. The fact is that we can have here huge discussions about all the virtues of the internet, but then you can equally have 2 times the time spent on the ails and the challenges coming from the internet. And I think the single biggest issue is going to be about all of that content is actually available. And if that ecosystem, which is made up of the telecom carrier, the platform provider, the content provider, is not able to deliver it in a value format to the consumer, where the consumer is willing to make a marginal payment towards that, then we kind of run the risk of none of this.
Sure. Last question, Marten. I'll let you have the last word. You're one of the biggest service providers in the country. You've been in business in many economies, in many countries. What are you doing to facilitate that, and what Ms. Chandan said about bringing together the various cogs in the wheel to actually encourage innovation? Because at the end of the day, everybody's existence depends on that.
Yeah, we realized this when we started 3G, and what we did is we started the Center of Excellence actually in Bangalore in India, which is scanning the market and working with media companies, with content companies, to make sure that we have access to not only content but relevant content, which means that content that is interesting needs very often to be localized in India. It might be language, it might be even entertainment, which is very local. And so we are trying to push the content developers, also the application developers, to move into a direction that our customers want the services from us, and I think that in itself will stimulate. It's you were saying it's lacking in the chain, the cooperation. This is at least a part of the chain that hopefully helps us develop a complete ecosystem, from content to the service providers, to the content aggregators, to the application developers. Make sure that we get the right content for the customers.
Right.
In the same context, you talked to start with the rural area and the urban area. And now, most of the subscribers in urban areas well taken care of. Neeraj talked about advertisement financed contents, but then we are not able to do a similar model for the rural area. There, the average income per person is less than 2,000 rupees. Now, if we have to sort of coax him to adopt 3G, it must give value worth that. That a poor farmer would not mind spending 500, 600 rupees on education